Yo, so today we're gonna be doing a video on the Hussein Farhat situation. If you don't know who Hussein Farhat is, he's a fitness influencer. HTLT supplements co-found, what co-owner. Very close with Greg Doucette and all them. And there's been like a lot of controversy around his natty status. And recently, the most popping one was a video from this guy, Anabolic Stick, who basically claimed that Hussein's lying, Greg is lying, everyone's lying, he doesn't believe them, and he gave his reasons why. And for some reason, everyone banded and were everyone banded behind him. But the thing is, it's not really like a changed opinion. I think it's more just all the people that didn't believe Hussein was natural to begin with, just just hopping on the train. And it's weird because some people are saying weird things like, oh yeah, my ego is sated. Oh yeah, I've always been, it's glad to be proven right, when like none of what he brings up actually proves anything. Like most of what he brings up is very just his opinion. That's the thing that I don't understand. Like people are so and I don't know, you can probably tell, but like I'm part of the camp that believes Hussein is natural for multitude of reasons that I'll probably get into as we go. Main one just being like the day after blood test. You can't, and plus natural bodybuilding show. Like you can't fake a blood test as much as Anabolic wanted to be like, oh yeah, he faked the blood test. He switched it out with his friend to you know, before sending it to Greg. But like that's illegal. You can't do that. Like if he actually did do that and then put it on the internet, knowing that it would be on the internet, he did an illegal. That would just be stupid. But like, I doubt he did that. That's like it's such a convoluted like claim to make, because like there's no way if he did, like I'd be surprised, but like there's no way he did that. Um, he's already made a video. I'm kind of making this late. I didn't expect him. He already made like a response to it, but I still want to put in my 2 cents just for the sake of I was gonna do this anyway. So yeah, he already explained that like in terms of how it worked, he didn't. It's not like he got his results and then sent it to Greg. The clinic sent it to both him and Greg, so he had no way to tamper with it. But yeah, let me just go over not my notes, but like my key points that I want to go over before I during the discussion. So yeah, why I believe Hussein. It's very like simple, really, right? I feel like everyone's kind of forgotten that like like elite genetics exist, right? Everyone's forgotten that that's like a thing for some reason. Like for some reason in this internet world, we've forgotten that there are people that like grow very quickly and grow to like very impressive proportions. You know, because we're trying to act like just because not even like what he did was particularly okay or was crazy, but like I mean like out of bounds, right? Because a big point that he uses at the beginning was this is anabolic stick, is like, oh yeah, look at my transformation. I went from this to this in the same amount of time. And so because that was my transformation, therefore his transformation is just there's no way it's a thing. And it's like, one, why using yourself as the standard? For especially for like good like the ego on this guy, bro. Like, you're gonna get a lot of this guy, but like even what's it called? Why using yourself as the standard? Like that can't be your argument. And even then, it's like I think this was more just him throwing out numbers, right? So he didn't take it too seriously. But it's like a thing if he was like, I went from like 130 to like 170 or something. So he said he like gained like 40, 50 pounds. And then Hussein claimed that he gained like 60 pounds. How accurate was that? And how much of it was like rounding off and stuff? That's its own thing. But 60, 40, right? So he says that that's the difference, right? Which is pretty close in poundage. And then he's like, yo, so how is he claiming that he gained 17 years of muscle in 3 years? And it's like, whoa, dude, didn't you just claim that you gained very similar amounts in the same time and you're supposed to be Natty? Like, because he only has like what, a third more than you. So even if you like divide that by the years, you did it in half the time that you're claiming would be re like per like the difference, per, because if you divide it by three, it's like 5 and a bit years, and you claiming you gained the amount for like what, 10, 12 years in three as well. So it's like, and you're supposed to be natural, but somehow it's not believable that Hussein isn't natural. Like, come on, bro. Like, let's be honest. But also, more, not really more importantly, but like, people, as I was saying earlier, people forget that good genetics exist. Like, people forget that phenomenal genetics exist. Like, they try and act because for me, prime examples that people forget. It's like, remember Ronnie Coleman, dude. And I know it's crazy comparing Hussein to Ronnie Coleman, crazy glaze and all that. But I'm just making a point in terms of like elite bodybuilding genetics existing, right? If you look at Ronnie Coleman natural, lots of people don't believe he was natural, like when he says he was natural. But the thing is, look at where he gets to on steroids. Like, of course, he was natural. Same thing, Chris Bumstead. There's that one photo of him when he's 18, and people are like, oh my gosh, there's no way he's that big. There's no way he's doing that naturally. He was. Look at where he got to when he hopped on steroids. And remember, these are like the Mr. Olympias, right? Chris was the six-time Classic Olympia champion. Ronnie was like seven-time Open Olympia champion. These are like the cream of the crop, right? The creme de la creme of bodybuilding, of muscle building and shape genetics and all that. And even they are accused of being fake natties when we see what they look like on steroids. We see the large difference, especially Ronnie. We see the large difference between natural Ronnie and juiced Ronnie, and people still don't believe that he was natural. So, like, the point that I'm saying is that, like, people obviously aren't a good like opinions people's opinions obviously aren't a good gauge for like what is possible naturally and what you can like reasonably expect if someone claims to have like elite genetics, because they can see the most creme de la creme of genetics on display at their natty, and they can see it on display at their juiced, and they'll still claim that like the natty wasn't natty, seeing where the person gets when they're juiced, right? So obviously people on a good claim, and then people like, it's also weird because people, I'm surprised that people are surprised when they see something phenomenal. Well, not really surprised, because it's like just a thing of how often does it happen that like when it does happen, people will just be doubtful. So the thing is, skepticism. I don't discourage skepticism. Skepticism is very reasonable. You should always be skeptical of everything. But what I do discourage is being too stuck in your opinion. Especially when you don't really have any like counter proof. Like, you're so stuck in your opinion that all your counter proof basically just comes from like other opinions. They're just making you feel better. Because like anabolic sticks like video was purely opinion based. Like, if it, this is like one of the notes that I made. But like, if you look at the way that he said things, every statement that he made was so biased towards his opinion. It was actually insane to watch. Like, he would refer, he'd be like, oh yeah, these guys are liars. These, introduce the video, the pathological liar Hussein and what's called Greg, and it's like, whoa, dude, this is, you just framed it straight off the bat with your opinion. So like, whenever anyone's just watching the video, especially people who don't know any of these people, they just immediately being like, oh, okay, so they're pathological liars. And then he gets to a point, and then it's like where who was it? Whenever like Greg will say something that he agrees with, he'll be like, yeah, and he correctly states, and he correctly states. And it's like, whoa, dude, what do you mean correct? Like, he's like, oh yeah, he correctly states that Hussein is a natural in this video. And it's like, why is it correct? Is it correct because you agree with it, or is it correct because it's actually true? Because then the second he gets like, because remember when Greg made that video, when he said Hussein is a natural, he was just going off of what he had, which was very much just timeline, what's it called? which was very much just timeline transformation and videos, right? And he was like, it's very unlikely that this guy's natural. I don't believe he is. It's possible because most things are possible. As I said, there's like creme de la creme people, and Hussein even isn't even like at that level of creme. Like he's high, but like we really gonna compare him to Rodney. But like um there's high people, but he was like, likelihood that it's this guy, probably not. I don't believe him. But he didn't make a strong statement of he's not. He just said, I wouldn't believe him if he told me. And then the second he got new evidence, because he trained with Hussein, and then like he challenged Hussein to a drug, not a drug, a blood work, and then Hussein took it, gave it to him like a day or two afterwards. He was like, okay, shit, like I got the evidence. The evidence says he's natty, so he's natty, And it's not like a drug test where drugs can be dodged. It's a blood test. Blood tests, as watch the Greg video. He's like, it goes back like, was it like 3 months or something? He's like, it goes back much longer than drug tests. He's like, like if he did for somehow hop off, he anticipated, had the ocular prowess, like the ocular prowess to like view into the future and be like, okay, Greg's gonna make a video about me, and then we're gonna meet at the gym, we're gonna train together, then he's gonna challenge me, so I need to be ready for this drug test. If he did that and still didn't, but like if he somehow did that, right? You gotta explain how he didn't lose any muscle on the way to training with Greg. Like in between those 3 months, how didn't he lose any muscle? But like, nah, bro. Anabolic is so biased, dude. Like just watch the video yourself. You'll see the insane bias and like the straight misrepresenting of what he said. Like at one point Hussein's like, because Greg's asking him like who does he think is natty or not, right? And then he'll be like, oh yeah, I don't think Jeff Seed is natural. And then Anabolic will be like, oh wow, the audacity of this guy to claim Jeff Side isn't natural when he himself, is obviously not natural, And then it's like, well, everyone knows that Jeff Side has not always been, he went through the point where he was like very jacked. And I do believe he was natural for a time. For me, where he lost me was I think 20. It was the one year where he like blew up. It was like 2017 or something, where he was like much bigger than the previous like competition that he was at. That's the one where I was like, okay, bro. Okay, bro, I don't think you're natural here, right? And the same thing he did with David Lade, right? Hussein was asked, do you think David's natty? And then he's like, no, I don't. And he said specifically the reason he said was there was the one year where he got a lot stronger, like, and it was after he was already training. And then Anabolic's like, wow, you look better than David. Therefore, the audacity of this guy, he looks better than David. His transformation is more impressive than David. And yet he is claiming that David isn't lifetime natty, and he is. The audacity. But it's like, that's not why he claimed, that's not even why he claimed that David wasn't natty. He claimed that David wasn't natty. Well, no. He claimed that he believed David wasn't natty because there was like the one year where David's bench went up by like 80 pounds. And this wasn't at the beginning. If it was at the beginning, sure, it's feasible. He has really good genetics. This is like 4 years into training. David just like his thing just blows up. And it's like, yeah, of course we're all like, you've already been training, bro. You're not gonna have like huge leaps like that. So of course but the point is that's not the reason why he said David wasn't natty. Well, he didn't believe David was lifetime natty was because of strength and not because of looks, and using the looks as a kind of equivalent of strength, right? So yeah, bro. Me personally, as you can tell, I don't agree at all with Anabolic. I don't agree with like the people who are just agreeing with him because he's agreeing with them. Like because he's kind of representing their side, although I think very poorly. Because like he doesn't really have any strong arguments. He says them in very convincing ways because he's like good at like eliciting emotions, right? He's good at, because the way that he frames it is a very like antagonistic way. So everyone that already like strongly dislikes Greg for whatever reason, or like feels very strongly about the Hussein situation, feels very strongly that Hussein is a Natty, they like easily hop on the train because they're like, yes, this guy gets it. Look at how angry he is. Look at, he's calling Greg a liar. He's calling Hussein a pathological liar. He's like, oh yeah, Greg's proactive fake Natty, and then he shows like the one article that's like when Greg got uh caught with a drug test, right? It was like a Natty drug test. I remember he told the story of what happened. I forgot though. I forgot like the context of it, but I remember he explained it. But then like the ones where he lost me, right? Because they're saying, oh yeah, what do they call it? Not proactive, like I don't know, but like he's a fake Natty, but like in the past, right? He's pretty like he's now open, but like a retroactive fake Natty, right? And then like the comments that he shows are basically just like other people, like the proof that he shows for Greg being retroactive, for making this claim that Greg is retroactively fake Natty, is that it's like three guys, and all of them are very much just random guys. And they're just saying that they don't believe Greg. The one guy's like, yeah, I don't believe you. Back in the day, the tests weren't as like thorough, which is a fair enough argument, right? But not an argument for Greg being a fake, but an argument for the tests not being thorough. It's more an argument that the proof that you were natural isn't as strong as I'd like it to be. But just because the proof that was available at the time wasn't like foolproof or even as good as we have now, doesn't mean that it's somehow just invalid. Like, yeah, it brings a point of like, oh yeah, we don't know for sure, but it doesn't mean that like, oh yeah, because we can't tell with 100% certainty, it means you're lying. Like, no, that's not how it works. And then like the other two, one guy's like, oh yeah, it's definitely on this. I know as someone who takes this. Like, no, you don't. That's not how it works. You don't. You can't be like, oh, I know as someone who takes this specific thing that's how it looks. Like, no, bro, that's not how it works at all. You're just some guy. Everyone reacts differently to drugs. Another guy is saying the same thing. He just gave a whole like random stack of like random steroids, and he's like, yeah, I know because I know. Like, it's weird, bro. It's not even vaguely like good proof for like such a claim. But yeah, you can probably tell I'm getting heated because like I don't like when people say things with conviction that don't warrant being said with conviction. You can say your opinion as conviction. You can be like, I don't believe him. You can say that I don't believe Greg. I don't believe Hussein. I think Hussein's lying, all that. But when you just like open a video and you're saying your statements like they're truth, when there's no proof behind the truth, when there's no actual backing behind your statements, you're just saying Hussein's a pathological liar. Hussein's lying. He's lying about this. The audacity. He's lying. Greg's a liar. He's bought off. All that. It's like there's no. You just have a lot of confidence, but no actual credibility. And it annoys me because everyone that's like agreeing with him, they're not agreeing with him because his arguments are good. They're agreeing with him because, like him, his arguments agree with them, right? He's just saying what, not even what they, but like, he just has their same opinion. So they're like, yeah. And he's saying it in a very strong and emotional way. So he's getting them riled up too. And it annoys me. I don't subscribe to that. And like a big reason why I'm making this video, besides obviously views, brother. It's a popping topic at the current moment. So I'm hoping I can scapegoat a bit of it. But also, I think it's important to keep belief within the Natty community. Like, I feel like a lot of creators, even like the juiced up creators and stuff, there's a lot of like discrediting of like how far you can get as a Natty that goes on. I feel like that's how a lot of these Natty or nots come across. But not even just that. I feel like with all these Natty or nots that have been coming out and stuff, Natties have kind of like lost faith in how far they can actually go, because all their goals have been like either exposed as fake Natties or like they look so good that even if they're not exposed, the people watching have kind of made it in their minds that as a natural you can only get so far. There's this like ceiling that's surprisingly low. There's this ceiling that natties can get to that is like surprisingly low, and you just can't get over it. But it's like that's not actually how everyone is different. You might be lucky, you might be unlucky, but you need to work with the idea in mind that you are one of these people that can like push and like become someone that people don't believe is natural, right? Like people before would say like, oh, Alex Eubank is a natural, and it's like bro has great shape. Alex, the one thing he had was shape. Before this is obviously before he hopped on. He had great shape and stuff, but in terms of size, he wasn't actually huge. But the issue with this is that it's obviously showing that people's perception of how far you can go as a natural was not very high. Because if you're thinking Alex is on juice, right? Remember, when you accuse someone of being on juice, you're accusing them of being like marginally better than what you can achieve as a natural. Like they're so out of range that like you can't even visualize that being natural, right? So that means if Alex at 170 was just not natty, how big do you think a natural can get? How good do you think a natural can get if like Alex is your idea of like there's no way he's natural, you know? So I feel like as a natural influencer, I can't really say that, but like, yeah, as like a natural voice on the internet, it's important for me to kind of champion people that I think are natural, but as well champion the idea of like naturals being able to reach great heights if they dare reach for it. You know, because I don't like a future where like everyone just doesn't believe that things are possible just because like what some guy couldn't do it himself. So instead of just like pushing or just accepting that he might not be that guy, he just like puts down those who can in an attempt to stop everyone else from like trying to reach for the same thing as well because he failed. So if he failed, it must not be possible, right? Like I don't like that. I don't like that future. I don't like that outcome. So I felt kind of the need to make this video. But yeah, if you enjoyed, thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below if you have something to say. Uh, Subscribe if you want to see more. Share this video with everyone you know. Pet iguana, pet lizard, your aunt Josephine, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.